Everyone, since it's 5 o'clock and we do have a quorum, I am going to hereby call this meeting of the Hood River County Transportation District Budget Committee to order at 5 o'clock. Tia, can you please take roll call?
Yes. Tamara?
Here.
Leanne?
Here.
Cindy? Here. Greg?
Here.
Bo?
Here.
Jeremy? And Matt.
Here.
Wonderful. So at this time, we'll move on to item 2, which is the election of the Budget Committee Chair. Thank you again for all of you being here. I love Budget Committee in the sense that it's that one time of year we get a lot of folks interested and we can go through all the numbers. So I actually enjoy this time of year. So
Make sure that gets in the minutes.
but I know it also takes a lot of time, so I appreciate you guys being here. So we need to elect a committee member who is willing to serve as the budget committee chair. I believe we typically select someone who is of the public and not necessarily a board member. Does anyone have a nomination that they would like to make?
Anyone have a hat they want to throw into the normal thing?
Yes.
Gonna throw her in the table. Okay.
Or I'll throw you in the table
No, I don't want to.
next year.
Okay, if you do it this year, I'll do it next year.
Deal.
Thank you.
All right. Can I get a motion for this?
That was hard.
All right, so to be clear, the nomination is for Leanne Hoagie. Can I get a motion for this nomination?
I move that we appoint Leon Hoagie as the chair of the 2025 Budget Committee.
All right. Can I get a second for this motion?
I will second.
All right. Thank you both. Just because I heard Bo first.
Right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
All right. Awesome. Anyone opposed? Hearing none. Leanne is our budget committee chair, and now
What do I have to do?
I'm going to give you the cheat sheet.
Okay.
And we'll just go ahead and move on.
And you're welcome to add to that motion that Cindy agreed to next year.
We'll put that in the minutes.
Yeah, I'll put it in the minutes.
That's good. Okay, so next, we get to hear the reading of the budget message for FY25-26 by Executive Director Amy.
Okay. So in compliance with the state of Oregon local law, budget law, the 2025-2026 budget beginning July 1st, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2026 is submitted to the Budget Committee for approval. As prepared and submitted, the annual budget is intended to serve as a financial plan for the board's goals for the coming fiscal year. To that end, the budget should outline the forecasted expenditure requirements to meet those goals and the proposed means for financing those requirements, provide a financial review of the use and deployment of personnel, materials, and services, and capital for administrative and operating expenditures during the fiscal year. Offer guidance to the board and district on overall operational priorities and expenditures. So first, it's always fun. We're going to go over the accomplishments of fiscal year 2025. We made significant progress towards achieving board goals to enhance local services, maintain and expand access for residents and visitors in other gorge communities, as well as the Portland metropolitan area. Key outcomes include the 4-agency Gorge Transit Pass is in its 4th year, and we continue to work together with the other providers to improve rider experience and operational efficiencies. One of the big ones from this past year was creating more pulse points here at CAT between us and the other providers to reduce inefficiencies with transferring to other providers. So that's one of the big things from this year. And we also transitioned the pass from a calendar year pass to a 365-day pass, which has proven to be very popular.
Do you have any sense of how many people actually get passes versus on their phone?
The physical ones,
Yeah.
yes, we can look that up, and I can provide that data next meeting.
Cause I might be the last one, does it? I don't know.
Tim, you can, or
That'd be
Tia, to make a note of that.
Yeah.
Thank you. We contracted with Skamania County, City of Stevenson, and the US Forest Service to provide the Dog Mountain Shuttle for the 5th year. And using funding from the, Washington State Department of Transportation Consolidated Grants Program for a portion of, the program for the fiscal year 23 to 25 biennium. We provided the Gorge Mountain Express service in-house for the 4th year. Ridership increased from fiscal year 24, from the fiscal year 24 season from 8,722 riders to 9,125 riders in fiscal year 25. We partnered with the city of Hood River again for the downtown employee pass program. So this is now our 4th year of that program.
And did it go okay this year?
Yeah.
Did you increase numbers at all?
It's the same numbers because it's the same amount of funds that we get from the city.
Oh, okay.
But I would love to hear how Tim has kind of measured in an anecdotal way the success of that program.
Yeah, it's gone good. We had returning people that got them the previous year actually asking at the
And-
start of the year. And then I do a bit of cold calling and cold emailing, targeting mostly like the service industries around town, people that work in restaurants in
Right.
our popular areas. Yeah, reception's good, and we've got a few success stories. I mean, 1 or 2 people that said, oh, this is great, and so uses this to and from the Dalles, so yeah,
Okay.
it's gone over pretty well.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
yeah, it's fun to be part of.
I think the biggest thing that I'm seeing year over year are just the return folks. And the businesses that are in the service industry that are seeing how they could use this for their
Community, yeah.
employees.
Right.
Yeah.
What is the program exactly? Just real quickly.
Oh, so sorry.
Yeah, no.
So the downtown employee program, we get $6,000 from the city of Hood River to give free passes to employees of who work in the downtown Hood River area
Okay.
for a year.
And are these people like mainly like 9-to-5ers or
It's really a gamut.
is it? Okay.
It's all over the
Well, the
place.
meters only run till 6.
Right.
So, yeah.
And I think what I've heard too is that they use them to commute, but they also use them for going into Portland, going in the Dalles, a lot
Oh,
of different.
So they
other
can park
reasons.
different
Yeah.
places.
Mhm.
Okay,
So
so maybe they park other places.
Right, so it's a pass to use the system in general, as
Yep.
opposed to like some specific commuter pass or something like
Correct.
that.
Okay.
Yep, it's just we're not fancy enough to have all those
These
different.
tiered, yeah. That's right.
We just-
It's either on or off, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly. Okay, so we purchased and received or placed into operation 2 40-foot Columbia Gorge Express vehicles. You might have seen them. They look
Yay.
fancy.
They
Yes.
do.
And these vehicles should reduce required repairs and expenses, also being more fuel efficient as well. As you guys know, we've been operating some old buses, large buses for a long time, so it's nice having new ones. We were awarded funding for 2 additional new 35 to 40-foot vehicles that can be used on seasonal services and accommodate recreational gear. We worked with the Forest Service, ODOT, and other partners to ensure the success. Well, yeah, to ensure the success of the Multnomah Falls I-84 permit program and continuation of the program in summer of 2025. And that's kind of an ongoing partnership that we work on throughout the year. And we're still working on long-term solutions and how we can help do that. Because what we're finding is that the congestion at Multnomah Falls is not just a summer issue, it's becoming an all year round issue. So just having this program, the Multnomah Falls Permit Checker Program in the summer is reducing the issues in the summer,
Yeah.
but now there's issues at other times of the year too. So it's kind of like playing Frogger, trying to smash the issues, whack-a-mole, yes, there you go. Okay, so ridership overall for fiscal year 25 is trending to increase by 10% from fiscal year 24. So that's basically I believe after the pandemic, it was like a 15 to 20-ish percentage, and now we're kind of stabilizing at that 10%-ish area, which is great.
And what's the number roughly?
Um,
How many riders?
I would have to double check, but I think it's like 88 to 90,000 members. But I can double check it.
Amy, is that in line with other comparable
Oh.
providers?
And I didn't notice it. So we have seen an increase that not all other providers have seen. The last time, though, to be completely honest, that I've done a detailed review of our increases from other agencies was probably a year and a half ago.
Great, 10% is great.
Yeah, I thought we might plateau a little bit more, but it's been nice to see that 10%. Gorge Transit Connect Low Income Fare Program has expanded to new partner organizations, and it continues to just grow.
Does it, I asked that
Yeah.
question here. Is it growing?
It is.
Oh, good.
So we're adding new folks, but the interesting thing too is we're getting more organizations who are paying a reduced fare. So not just getting the free ones, but they are paying the reduced fare so that the free ones that we have can kind of go a little farther.
Okay, good.
So that's neat to see.
That's,
The district held LGIP account allowed the district to double the interest accrued by its reserve holdings. That one was fun.
I saw that, right? Yeah.
Free money.
Yeah,
Free money.
Yep.
Just
What
right.
is the LGI?
so
We
it's,
understood that. You guys seem to react warmly to it, but I was like, what?
so thank you. That's,
Yeah.
I have to remind myself not to do acronyms.
But yeah.
So it's local government investment
Ah,
pool.
gotcha.
Essentially, only special districts or certain entities can invest their funds in these investment accounts that are considered stable, and even with all the uncertainty these days has remained stable and high at what, 4.5%, I think. So it's been a great way to grow the funds. We used to have our funds in our reserve funds in the county held LGIP account. And for whatever reason, we didn't necessarily see the same amount of growth.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I remember you brought that up at a couple budget meetings ago.
yeah.
With the county.
And it's just been so great that we've even moved, and now I'm going into, I think, something else, but we've moved a couple other reserve accounts that we have. So one for our statewide transportation improvement fund monies that we're required to hold separately. We've opened another LGIP account for those. They were previously held in a money market account, and we just didn't see the same savings or the same growth. So we move those over, and then we also have some vehicle funds that are from the sale of our vehicles that we're required to hold in a separate account. And those two were in a money market account, and we're moving those over into that its own LGIP account as well.
Very cool.
All right. Also, we purchased an undeveloped parcel of land across the street from the Cat Transit Center. You might have noticed it, that has lots of buses on it. This site will be developed into a new park and ride, allowing the current park and ride location to be repurposed into a bus barn and maintenance facility capable of accommodating large vehicles.
Okay.
And that will reduce,
Bus barn will go over there
correct.
and buses will sit over there. Did you buy it?
So this
Ready?
will be a park and ride, so this will be
Got it.
what the users will use. Yeah.
Okay. The big buses are just sitting there.
The big buses are just staying there
Got
for
it.
now,
Put it for
until
parking.
we're ready to move forward
Mhm.
with construction.
Okay.
Yeah,
And that,
Yeah.
those funds are in the budget somewhere?
we are holding off as of now, just with some uncertainty, because those funds we've used, ODOT has, with some of our grants, they've approved the grants, they've only approved the reimbursements for a portion of some of the grants.
Okay.
Because this was a high priority project and they know we had already done a lot of work
Right.
trying to secure this property, they had approved, I think it was $190,000 to be reimbursed. The board did make the decision to use some of our reserve funds to cover that other amount that won't be able to be reimbursed until potentially summer of 2026. So that we could move forward with that project. But we're kind of holding steady to see kind of what happens before we move forward with that project, because we would have to wait potentially a year to get the reimbursement of the remainder of those costs.
It's a great location.
It is.
Right out your front door.
Yeah.
That,
The only
This-
one left.
I
Yeah.
know, that was
Yeah.
amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Did Marty sell it to you guys, Marty Burr?
Yes,
Okay,
he did.
good.
Mhm.
That's cool. I'm glad you got that.
Yeah, so it worked out pretty well, and then we'll just, we'll need to redevelop the current park and ride.
Just another project.
Yes, just another one. Okay, we procured new and improved dispatch technology to increase operational efficiency and improve rider experience. We're still working on the implementation of that. But that should also, riders will see an improved rider experience when trying to look up where our vehicles are in real-time status. So that's a nice capability of it. It also will group riders better on Dial-A-Ride and provide a mobile device option for people who feel comfortable with booking their Dial-A-Rides via mobile device. Yes. Yes. In addition, we worked with a consultant to identify strategies to operationally improve the Hood River City route and create a more efficient or convenient service. So the overall economic outlook for the Hood River County Transportation District is good if current funding sources remain stable and tariffs do not exponentially increase costs. The district is cautiously optimistic that current funding streams and awarded federal grants will not be impacted by federal government uncertainty. The COVID-19 pandemic impact has ceased, and staff have seen a significant increase in ridership over previous years. However, it does seem to be stabilizing. CAT received over $2 million from federal COVID-related funding, CARES Act, CRISA, etc., in since fiscal year 2020 and through fiscal year 2025. No additional CARES Act allocations will be made. These funds have helped to maintain stability by addressing increased operational costs, fuel, vehicle expenses, and personnel wages and taxes due to inflation and other economic factors. On July 1st, 2025, the 25 through 27 biennium will go into effect, allowing the district to utilize recently awarded approved state and federal grant awards. This year, the district will be shifting how the federal 5311 formula funds are utilized by using them to fund the Hood River City, Upper Valley, and Dial-A-Ride services while leveraging STIF formula funds, so statewide transportation improvement fund dollars, to pay for the match requirements. This will allow the district to use local funds to match capital grants and ensure the reserve contingency balance remains healthy to protect the district from potential delays in reimbursements from federal grants.
I wrote here, very good explanation.
Good.
When I read these 3 paragraphs, okay.
Good, I'm glad.
Yeah, that worked out good, Andy.
To the extent that you know what's going to happen.
Yes.
Yeah,
But you're-
and that I don't know at all, so you
Yeah.
help me.
The board has outlined the following goals for the fiscal year 26 budget. Maintain current service levels for year-round services and the Gorge to Mountain Express service, Dog Mountain Shuttle, and weekend white salmon service. Transition of the Upper Valley deviated fixed route into a fixed route per our transit master plan of 2023. Increase efficiency of the Hood River City route, add bus stops at strategic locations to reduce the need for flag stops, and install permanent bus stop infrastructure. This has been a long project, it has gone on and on. Probably it was during your time, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we're
Um,
trying to get bus stops in.
Yeah.
Is the city giving up any curb space?
They're doing great. Honestly, what has happened, the delay in the project is just our resources,
Okay.
CAT resources.
Okay.
Meaning making sure the decisions that we're making of where we want these bus stops to be are strategic and well thought out. And then also with all the different changes and with what was identified in the transit master plan, which was to two directional routes. We have decided that's just not a feasible option due to resources. So right now we're concentrating on what the circulator route could look like if we get ourselves out of a couple of the parking lots and reduce the loop that we do going around the port area.
Yeah, you
So,
said something about Eighth Street, getting rid of Eighth Street.
yeah, Eighth and
Okay.
Portway.
Eighth and Portway.
Mhm.
That
Which-
makes this kind of out, it does seem like it's kind of
It's-
out in the middle of nowhere, kind of,
Yes.
like, yeah. okay.
Yeah, the original intent was it could help the people who are going to those businesses that were located more that way.
Yeah.
But I think in actuality, it hasn't really done that. And all it does is it's adding extra time on the
Right.
loop that's not really necessary. So we're working with the city to see if we can find actually a spot that is by Second and Portway. To see if we can identify a location that that will work.
That route may actually be an artifact of when we had the pink trolley,
Mm-hmm.
and that was just from Rosauers down to the port, and so
Yeah.
it gave people a little bit more of a circuit.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Cause that's what I remember, we would ride the pink trolley and you could see.
And see the wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah, well, you know, you
That's
can
kinda
win some,
fun.
in some.
It's kind of fun.
'Cause right now, there's the stop that's at Freem, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then those are the two that are down there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that, the intent is to relocate
Yeah.
the stop at Eighth and Portway or by Freem to move it closer to
Yeah.
Ferment.
Yeah.
is there any thought of increasing
bullets.
service
Very
on,
good river reference.
on the west side?
Everything.
There's all the new building on the west side, is there any thought of increasing service farther to the west? In
At-
the aquatic center?
At this point, no. There's just not the resources. However, there is the ability to address some concerns on the west side with our Upper Valley route. So with the Upper Valley route going to a fixed route, we're looking at the route, it would take it by Fish Food Bank.
Yeah.
And then also by Windmaster, which potentially there's opportunity for a stop next to, or close to the high school.
Yeah.
So it could reduce some of those concerns. But it doesn't necessarily provide service to the west side. It's just not at this moment with the resources, it's
You'll think
hard to
it's
do.
like fried chicken, right? Yeah, no, that's-
Yeah. Okay. So in addition to that, we want to add a bus stop at on the Columbia Gorge Express service in Cascade Locks at Forest Lane in Wanapa. It's kind of a tough nugget because that's on ODOT right away, so there's additional to work through. Continue implementation of the transit master plan update while taking into consideration the funding realities. Continue and grow the multi-provider Gorge Pass program and support the regional transit strategy and work towards improved connectivity throughout the gorge. Ongoing training for staff and human resources, leadership, and overall transit operations. Continue to focus on improved driver training and programs. We have moved over to a new defensive driving program, which is exciting, and I'm hoping that'll be met with a lot less groans. As defensive driving can be kind of a tough one. Initiate facility expansion and modifications to accommodate electrification and bigger vehicles. Initiate the construction of the new park and ride as funding allows. Continue to expand outreach to vulnerable communities to ensure access and awareness of transit. Ensure website and promotional materials are in plain language and have an accessible user interface. I think there's still lots of opportunity to serve the Native American communities better.
Mhm.
I was reminded of that at the Transit Summit, and I think we just need to continue to work and figure that out.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there's lots of complexities to that. Continue to explore innovative options and implement solutions to address specific transportation needs. The ones that have always been identified are local NEMT and door through door, and then after hour shuttle. And procure new vehicles for local and regional services.
There was one other idea that came up with some, that I see frequently on Hood River Weather and other places,
Yes.
is does the cat bus go to the airport?
Yes.
And if there is a way to do, and I was talking to some other friends who take it from the airport and they go, that gateway stop is kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
It is.
I've been there recently. I know it is sketchy, but I've been there recently and it's a lot better.
Oh,
Okay.
that's good to
Yeah,
know.
like they have like half a dozen security people there and not, you know what I mean? Like, not to say it's great, but
It
like,
sounds sketchy, doesn't it?
but like there's definitely like a presence there, so.
So,
I feel like
so
they're-
another thought to toss in is there any possibility to do a stop at the airport as you go in, then gateway, then come back?
Oh, that's a good one. That's
So-
good.
On a couple of the roads,
Instead of gateway and you have to find your way to the airport.
yeah.
So as
I
of
like-
now, probably not,
Mm.
but I think because we're really trying to keep it express and quick. But I think so a pilot project that I tried getting funding for this year, but was not successful. Is my Columbia Gorge Explore idea. So not our Columbia Gorge Explore idea. And the intent of that would maybe help us serve recreational sites, but maybe also there's the option there to maybe go to the airport, or figure out something else. It's definitely something on my mind, especially as traffic in Portland gets worse.
Yeah,
I would also be open to finding a different transit hub to go to, but that's just something right now, it doesn't really
it doesn't
exist.
exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you just went to the airport and back,
Yeah,
because from the airport you could get to Gateway.
yeah, and then, it's just kind of
Yeah.
figuring out what's the biggest use cases that we
Yeah.
need to serve.
Who's using them?
Yeah.
Who's using the service the
That
most?
would be a good one though.
And I knew I should have like a little dot or something to keep my,
Where?
Interrupted you.
You want
No.
to hearing vehicles for local and regional service.
oh, great, thank you, appreciate it, Matt. All right, so the overview of the fiscal year 26 budget. So stop me if I get confusing, and if you need additional explanation, please ask, because with some of the, delayed reimbursements, it gets a little confusing.
Okay.
The fiscal year 2026 budget allows for CAT to maintain and enhance current services and continue implementation of key projects identified in the Transit Master Plan update. Our expectation is that ridership will continue to increase and be consistent with our ongoing investment. The budget strategy is outlined in the attached budget. The fiscal year 2026 budget has been broken out into resources, administrative requirements, operating requirements, and non-allocated requirements. So for resources, the general budget consists of resources from federal and state grants, property tax revenues, and a variety of other smaller sources. CAT has included roughly 1.2 million in capital grant funds that were included in the fiscal year 25 budget that were not spent and revenue was not received. In addition, CAT continues to carry over some statewide transportation improvement fund or STIF formula funds that were not spent in fiscal year 21-23 and 23 and 25 funding cycles that have been reserved for bus stop improvements to ensure ADA accessibility, but can also be used for capital expansion and replacement. The staff has included resources for grants that have been awarded but have not have known reimbursement delays, restrictions due to current federal government uncertainty, or other contracts have yet been fully executed. Okay. Spelling error. These words include about 483,000 for Formula 5311 and 5310 funds, 1.6 for facility site development, 540,000 for replacement vehicles, 167 for increased demand response capacity, and 270,000 for the Gorge to Mountain service, and 6.5 million for electric vehicle and facility modifications as part of the FTA low or no bus emissions program. Staff has included roughly $660,000 in loans that will be needed to assist with the match requirements for the FTA low or no emissions program if we're able to move forward with the electric bus purchases, and I'll talk a little bit more about that.
I had a question.
Yeah.
Good.
Administrative requirements. Under administrative requirements, staff have included administrative materials and services, administrative personnel services, and administrative capital outlay. Operating requirements, staff have included operating materials and services, operating personnel services, and the operating capital outlay. For non-allocated requirements, approximately 1.2 mil of non-allocated resources are budgeted as contingency funds and funds reserved for future use. In summary, the fiscal year 26 budget moves forward with the board's goals to implement the transit master plan update in 2023, continue efforts to increase ridership, replace aging vehicles, build upon existing partnerships, and expand transit connectivity within the region. Further, I want to thank the citizens of the Hood River County and our riders for the continued support of their public transit system. And I look forward to this upcoming year, working with staff and the board and partner organizations to provide dependable, safe, and consistent public transit services to our community. All right, we have our vision, our mission, and our values. If okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just move to the highlights of the budget. Resources. Our beginning fund balance, staff anticipates a beginning fund balance of approximately 1.3 million from fiscal year 25, and this 200,000 is expected to be the statewide transportation improvement fund formula funds that were not spent in the 21-23 funding cycle, but have been reserved for bus stop improvements to ensure ADA accessibility. We can also use this for capital expansion and replacement. 40K of the restricted funds are from vehicle sales and must be used to purchase new vehicles. The remaining 1.6 and 1.06 are unallocated funds. Fare revenue, the low-cost annual Gorge Transit program has seen steady growth of 30% year over year with a large local following who have consistently purchased the past year after year. Staff are expecting a roughly 4% increase in one-way fares due to a trend of a steady increase in ridership. For contract revenue, we have an ongoing contract with the U.S. Forest Service to staff the Multnomah Falls I-84 permit program and operate the Dog Mountain Shuttle. Contract revenue is expected to remain similar to fiscal year 24 and 25.
And are you interested in going year round with him?
For the
Multnomah Falls to
permit checkers.
Yeah. You don't
I-
know yet.
It's really unknown what the long-term solution is. Every year, we're basically piecing the solution together that we have. And the different partners who are so we administer the contract
Mhm.
for the permit checkers. We do not use staff. In the past,
Right.
we did. We do not do that anymore. And so we work with Multnomah County, Clackamas County, ODOT, and Forest Service, who all chip in for us to provide the service or administer it. So we're kind of at a point, and my board was talking about this at the last board meeting, of we need to do what we can as a transit district to advocate for more change, for a more sustainable change.
Yeah, more sustainable change for year-round use of that lot.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Are those
Hey-
entities chipping in enough to cover your costs?
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
quick question. Fare revenue is basically flat, but ridership is up 10%. Is there a disconnect there that I'm missing?
Just more gorge passes are being purchased.
So people are just more efficient with their dollars, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or what's a better way to describe that? It's more people are using passes rather than those who are paying the one-way fare.
And the one-way fare is more lucrative.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're
Like
on
so.
to it.
Bingo.
right? Yeah. they're onto it.
Okay. But we do think we're gonna get a little, that was the assumption though, that we're gonna have a little bit of an increase of one-way fares, but it's kind of hard to really estimate that and project that. Federal assistance, staff has included over 663,000-ish dollars in 5339 and 5311 funds for electric vehicles. They were not part of the FTA low-no emissions bus program that were in the fiscal year 24 and 25 budgets. These funds were not spent, nor was revenue received. We did ask to amend those grants because we've had those for a really long time and just the electric vehicles have just not been available. And so we have amended them for gas vehicles. We have just made the decision of which agency to go with, so we should see new vehicles in 3 to 6-ish months. Which is needed because a large amount of our cutaways are very old. 235 40-foot replacement vehicles that were also included in the fiscal year 25 budget, but the funds were not spent nor was revenue received due to the reimbursement being delayed is also included. So these were for the replacement recreational vehicles. Staff, which we are hoping to move forward with this next year. Some of those funds have been, the reimbursements have been delayed, so that's where my hesitancy lies. Oh, I lost track again. Okay, staff was awarded over 6 million FTA low or no emission bus program grant funds to assist with facility modification and electrification of the fleet. The agreement has not yet been executed, but I have been told that when it is executed, the timeline will remain the same, which everything needs to be spent by September of 2026. That is obviously unlikely. So we're working on figuring out what we can do within that timeline. But also that also depends what's in the final contract that I've seen the scope of work, but I haven't seen the fully
So
executed
you
one
might
yet.
have to give some money back because you can't use it. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and we won't be able to fully do all of, so the original grant, the scope was to purchase, I think, 6 electric buses, charging infrastructure, redevelop or redevelop the parking right into a bus barn and maintenance facility.
Mhm.
And we can't get reimbursed until we spend it. So the likelihood that we're gonna be able to do all of that within a year is not likely.
Mhm.
So what I'm working on doing is creating what is that realistic plan that will allow us to
Mhm.
meet a large amount of the intentions of the grant and move us forward
Yeah.
into electrification.
Right,
But also recognizing there are some restrictions there.
right. Right.
So the loan there is based on if, we do move forward with purchasing all of those electric vehicles, that loan will be needed in order to do the match. But since the likelihood of, it's unknown of if we'll be able to move forward with those buses. That's why I say there's that caveat.
Okay.
So given the
Yeah.
current environment, worst case scenario, the 6 million doesn't come through. How
Yes.
does that impact? It just means you keep driving over older buses?
Well, what it'll mean is that we'll just have to continue applying for probably gas vehicles in upcoming
Okay.
grant cycles.
Upgrade, but with gas.
Yes.
Vehicle. Okay.
Um,
Others are just getting old.
Yeah. And we, the nice thing about, so even though the grants that I just talked about, there's 3 vehicles, so 1 van and 2 cutaways that we had been awarded, I think 5 years ago. But they were for electric vehicles and we just haven't moved forward with them, because of issues of them just not, the electric vehicles not being available.
Okay.
Now that is gas, that allows us to refresh our fleet and to kind of push us through
Okay.
a little bit longer.
Okay.
And then we got our new buses, our new Columbia Gorge Express buses, so that helps us. I think the bigger impacts is how I'm gonna move forward with the redevelopment of the bus barn without those funds. That's probably my bigger concern, and then, of course, the park and ride.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I know you have no crystal ball, but
Yep,
it sounds like you're considering all sides of it.
yes.
And staying on top of it.
Yep, and we're really trying to think of, okay, if we move forward, if we do what we can, what can we do that is flexible enough so that we can change kind of course direction if we need to. Yeah,
Complicated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It is.
so federal 5339 funds were awarded to relocate the park and ride so that the current park and ride can be redeveloped into a bus storage and maintenance facility. and for the implementation of an interregional transit hub at Lot 1 near the Hood River Waterfront. 800,000 of these funds were applied for, but have not yet been awarded, but from my understanding, it's, it's looking good. The remaining anticipated federal revenue consists of 5311 and 5310 formula and 5310 discretionary funding. This revenue partially will be funding ongoing operations on the Hood River City route, Dial-A-Ride, Upper Valley, preventive maintenance, and mobility management. So I think with uncertainty that's happening with our federal government right now, I think my bigger concern are those services. Because the other federal funding I get are projects, so I can delay them if we need to. These, I can't necessarily do that.
Okay.
State assistance has applied for, but not yet been awarded 164,000 in funding from Washington State Department of Transportation for the weekend white salmon service and the Dog Mound shuttle. Those we are expecting to know in June, but I have included that per recommendation. The remaining anticipated state revenue consists of statewide transportation improvement fund formula and discretionary funding and revenue from statewide mass transit tax. This revenue funds all or partial amounts of ongoing operations for Columbia Gorge Express, Hood River City route, Dial-A-Ride, Upper Valley, Gorge Mountain Express, outreach and mobility projects. Loan and bond revenue. So again, the 660,000 in loan funds would be required to help pay for the low or no emission bus program match requirements. Again, that loan has not yet been acquired.
And where do you acquire loans?
There was,
Semi-public
when we were going
space.
through the grant application process, there's a couple of options, but typically banks.
Okay, so they present them to you and say these people are. Okay.
Other revenue, the district is expecting to sell a portion of the aging fleet and has benefited from interest generated through 3 local government investment pool accounts from the Oregon State Treasury. Any questions on that?
Mhm.
Yes.
How do we account for the decrease in state assistance, the $500,000 less? Is that like formula funds? Is it other transit authorities taking parts of the pot that we otherwise got previously, or is it just grants that we haven't applied for? I guess I'm just curious.
I'm sorry, remind,
So in fiscal year 25, we had $2.5 million of state assistance. This
Right.
year, we've got 2 million.
yes. So the reason for that is, we were estimating that we would be getting more stiff funding, than they actually received.
Okay, and that's a function of there just being more hands in the pot.
It's just more of, so the state and the stiff formula funds, it's the statewide transportation improvement funds that comes from state employee payroll tax. So we were expecting more to be collected than actually was. Whereas this year it's been more rectified to have a more accurate number.
So is it kind of like when the power company estimates your power usage and then they actually come and read the meter?
Mm-hmm.
That's a fun bill to get, isn't it?
Yeah. So, yeah, and then the economists I think they're especially now kind of doing a little bit of a lower,
Scaling back.
yeah,
There was some proposal in the legislature to up that number, right?
there was.
I assume that's not going anywhere.
I will be getting more of an update on that, I believe, next week. There is concern. There was support, but my understanding is that hasn't necessarily made it to the floor. For an increase, there is a small increase, but not what we were hoping for. And I think it's definitely an opportunity for, yeah, for us to communicate to local representatives what transportation needs for us.
Was they talking about that at the transit show? Or it's gonna be like 0.01% increase, or we
Yeah.
want 0.05 or something like that?
Yeah, yeah, the Oregon Transit Association was hoping for a 0.05 increase, and right now it's at a 0.01. And to be honest, I'm forgetting exactly where it is right now, but, it's not what we were hoping for.
Thank you.
Yes. And also to reflect that we have scaled our statewide transportation improvement fund, formula fund dollars. In past years, we've included other projects in that formula fund money, like van pooling, the EDA bus improvements, all of those things, and we've pared it down, so it really is just funding the match of our services at this point. Okay. So administrative materials and services, professional fees were reduced slightly as the project management, architectural engineering and design expenses for the new park and ride and the interregional transit hub were moved to administrative capital outlay. And actually, I think that was a mistype. I'm sorry. It got moved to operational capital outlay.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Mhm. And then for administrative personnel wages, our services, administrative wages in fiscal year 24, staff introduced a formalized pay step chart that is included in Exhibit A, which creates an objective understanding of step increases if an employee receives a positive performance review and an increase is recommended by the manager. The step increases include a cost of living increase and performance increase. When we get there, I'm gonna talk more about that, because there's some, I provided an additional memo that Tim, when we get there, will share to the folks that are signing in remotely so that they can see it as well. I'm gonna try to cruise through this a little bit. I realize it's 5:47. Yeah. Administrative wages, I'm sorry, did we have it till 6 or was it?
6:30.
Yeah, 6:30. Okay, never mind. I didn't remember. Between this and the board meeting, I'm all sorts of jumbled up of what times is starting and ending today. Okay. Administrative wages in fiscal year, oh, all right, sorry, already went there.
Oops.
Administrative benefits are expected to increase 8% from fiscal year 25. All three administrative personnel receive health stipends, which are reflected in wages rather than benefits. That's just to give you an understanding. The administrative capital outlay includes the administrative office facility updates and redevelopment of the park and ride into a bus barn. Again, I'm sorry, I made this change and then I didn't, I missed those. So it's actually, so there is a portion of the updates that's gonna happen to the office facility in the administrative outlay, that's 75,000. So the intent is to update the office to better house the people who work here. So that would be 75,000. But the park and ride into a bus barn and maintenance facility as part of the FTA low or no emission is in the operational capital outlay. And Tia, can you make a note of that so I make sure I update that in my budget message? Operating materials and services, fuel, since gasoline prices remain volatile, staff has allowed for an additional buffer in case prices increase or remain high. Vehicle expenses, while the district has just received 2 new vehicles in fiscal year 25, the remainder of the fleet is older and continues to have expensive repairs. The vehicle replacement grant for 2 35 to 40-foot vehicles has been awarded and will assist in reducing reliance on older vehicles. But they are 1.5 years out, at least, from implementation due to expected reimbursement delays. However, again, I've included it in case things change, then we can move forward on that. In fiscal year 25, staff was approved to amend 2 vehicle grants, 2 cutaways and 1 van from an electric fuel type due to gas due to a low availability of electric vehicles. The budget of 228,000 for vehicle expenses allows for needed repairs. This year, staff replaced repairs and preventive maintenance under vehicle expense to make it more reflective of that is a vehicle expense, and removed from the operations expenses to add clarity. Vehicle insurance was also added to the vehicle expenses line item. Vehicle insurance did increase a minor amount due to new large buses. Operation expenses, there were several changes under the operations expense in comparison to fiscal year 25. For clarity, communication expense was rolled under operation expenses, and in fiscal year 25, staff was able to pay for dispatch technology for the next 3 years upfront, which is decreasing our expected expense. And we are making note of it in our budget documents so that in 3 years' time, we will not be surprised if it'll be there. Driver expenses, the driver training, medical exams, drug testing, and uniform expenses remains relatively stable with an anticipated cost of $13,000. Advertising and marketing, the expected expense remains relatively similar to fiscal year 25, but did decrease substantially from prior years due to the success of the Gorge Transit Pass marketing partnership with the 4 Gorge Transit agencies. This partnership has required fewer district resources to increase regional awareness. The district will continue to use the available resources for local marketing efforts. Grant contract match funds, expenses included in this category are Gorge Transit Pass distributions to other providers, contracting out the staffing of the Multnomah Falls Exit 31 permit program, and outreach consultant. This line item is lower than last year as the e-bike lending library, van pool, and drunk driving reduction programs were not able to move forward. So we took them out.
We didn't have e-bike lending this year.
No,
We
it,
did.
we did, it was in the budget,
Okay.
but we had to remove it due to insurance
Okay.
concerns. So we were not able to move forward that. Van pool, we were not able to get off the ground, and then we kind of got to the point where we have to remove it from our budget, our expenses, so that we can use those funding, that funding for services. And then the drunk driving reduction program, which we weren't able to move forward with that.
Okay.
All right, any questions from our remote viewers? All right, cool. Are you guys able to hear me okay? All right, cool. All right, operating personnel services, operations wages, our wages have increased or steadily increased due to annual wage increases and additional drivers and dispatchers needed to operate the expanded demand response program. We have not added that additional dispatcher yet. Again, because of the federal uncertainty, we're kind of waiting to add that additional personnel. There are 4 FTEs, so full-time employees, 1 transit operations manager, and 3 field supervisors that are included in the operating personnel services and considered office staff, not drivers. So they're not included in the compensation package as the union contract, but they're on the office staff pay scale. Drivers have a more formalized pay increase structure, again, as described in detail in the union contract. For operations benefits, benefits are expected to increase 8% from fiscal year 25, since several operating personnel waive their insurance and receive health stipends instead. The expense is reflected in operations wages. So operating capital outlay, everything. So that if the district receives all vehicles that have been awarded grant funds, the district will receive 3 new gas vehicles, 2 new diesel vehicles, and 6 new electric vehicles. However, staff are cautious and optimism as it is very difficult to get a hold of the transit vehicles due to supply chain and range issues for the electric vehicles. Charging infrastructure and facility modifications have been included as part of the FTA no or low emission bus program grant. However, the implementation plan is a little murky due to the grant contract not yet executed and grant timeline restrictions. Additionally, staff has included 5339 funds to design and construct the interregional transit hub on the Port of Hood River Lot 1. A portion of these funds have been awarded and the other piece has been applied for but not yet awarded. And again, that is likely at least the design piece we can move forward on once our IGA has been completed with the port. So,
Will anybody else help pay you for that?
right now,
Yeah.
it's stuff we kind of still need to sort through
Okay.
the IGA. and kind of go from there.
I don't understand the personal services, just how much benefits have gone up, wages are flat. Everything pretty flat except that huge uptick in benefits, and then like in the little narrative, you say 8% increase, I'm just kind of, I don't, yeah, I just like a little more explanation.
It's a very good question. So this fiscal year 2025, that's from our budget. That's not necessarily our actual expense.
Okay,
Our actual expense, Tia, do you remember? But it's quite a bit lower, it's lower than that. And to me, that means that so when I am forecasting for our employees, I am kind of forecasting on a flat, increase based on a couple of percentages. Now, our drivers they receive, on July 1st, they receive a COLA increase. And then on their anniversary date, they receive another increase for their performance. So what that does is it kind of makes it, so I estimate for that full increase starting July 1st. And I believe that's kind of why we're seeing these differences in actuality versus budget.
so the left column is actual, or that was what we budgeted last
That's
year?
budgeted last year,
Okay,
because we don't have the actual.
and you're saying
yet.
that number's actually lower,
I'm expecting that full number to be lower. Tia, do you have the numbers?
just on the benefit side, I guess, or the
Um,
whole thing?
The whole thing.
Oh, the whole thing of the 17.
I still don't
65.
understand why the benefits went up like 100. Yeah,
So the benefits, so that each was about an 8% increase. And the benefits we have, that all kind of depends.
It also includes, when we're budgeting, that also is taken into account every operational employee that's eligible for like the 537 retirement.
okay.
And not everybody, chooses to participate, so there's that included as well, just to ensure coverage there.
So I think that in general, that's like the high level, but let's make a note of that so that we
Yes.
can,
The 370,
yeah.
okay.
Because you're right, that is high. I mean, off the top of my head, it's really variable because it depends if we have more full-time employees versus part-time employees.
And is that part of the equation, or is it?
Yes,
Is it difference in the FTEs from?
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So I think on the top of my head, that's probably the answer, but can you mark it down and
Yeah.
I'll double check and confirm that. Operating capital, oh, we already went to that. Any questions on the capital outlay?
Fingers crossed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's all it is, let's
Yeah.
hope.
Non-allocated, as the district does not plan to spend all available resources in the current year, staff has budgeted the remaining 1.2 million of resources as follows. So the contingency approximately, my bullet points didn't work very well. Contingency approximately 367,000 of unallocated resources are reserved for contingency spending in the event of a major unforeseen event that would significantly adjust the budget expenditures for fiscal year 26, and then reserved for future use. So we have 367,000-ish in contingency. I kind of did that on purpose. And then I also increased our reserve for future use up to 800,000, just to make sure we have that extra buffer. And yeah, and then of course the restricted funds, I'm only expecting to have that 40,000 remaining for our vehicle. This next year, we should be using that 200,000 of statewide transportation improvement funds that we have been withholding because of,
Oh, that's right.
it was
you
for the
did.
EDA.
Yeah.
Access. So additional notes, there are several vehicles and special projects included in the fiscal year 26 budget. The total cost of the projects and match are included below. If all vehicles are delivered and capital projects completed in fiscal year 26, the district will be responsible for, just over 1.3 mil in match, and that's included. Now, again, there's a lot of what ifs, but I have found that this is a very helpful way to make sure it's clear what the match requirements are.
That helps me to suddenly put it together, so thank you.
Staff salary scale. So here I have included the original salary scale that was approved to put into implementation in fiscal year 2024. I have also included a memo for you all. And so again, so when the district instituted the pay scale for all office staff and non-unionized employees in fiscal year 2024, the goal was to create a more structured approach to compensation. All drivers are considered collective bargaining unit employees, and their compensation is negotiated every 3 years and included in the union contract. The pay scale, like I said, that was included in the draft message was the original pay scale. I'm sorry, Tim, I'm gonna stop and wait until we can share this because I need to make sure that the remote people can see it.
Are you emailing it out, Amy, or are you guys gonna show it on the screen?
Tim's gonna share the screen. Sorry, I didn't realize
Pay
you
scale
had.
attachment.
Oh, that's right.
Do the actual memo, please. Were you able to, there you go.
Everybody see that?
All right.
Great.
So as with most new processes, you put them out there, you see what's gonna work, and there's usually some opportunity for improvement. And we recognize that the scale did have opportunity for improvement and would need to be revised in the next couple of years. I was hoping that we would be able to do that so that we could really thoughtfully go through this scale before I push it out to the budget committee. Unfortunately, late last week, it became much more apparent when I was digging into a couple of issues that there was some consistency and potentially pay equity issues that need to be addressed. So in conjunction with our human resources consultant and outside accountant, I created a couple of options for the budget committee to review and provide guidance. The main issues in our original pay scale that is in the budget message is there compression between positions, lack of clarity between performance increase and COLA, inconsistent step increases, and didn't encourage longevity at the district. Option A and B that I have provided. Tim, can you go ahead and scroll down so everybody all the way? Oh, no, you're gonna have to open the attachment now. And I think you're gonna have to, you see it? Can everybody see the scales?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I think you're gonna have to
I
stop sharing.
cannot.
and share.
1 second.
There we go.
How's that, everybody?
Yes, you can see it now.
Okay. Great. So both of these options would address these concerns. However, our human resources consultant would recommend option A if the budget committee and the board feel comfortable with the financial implication. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of explain the differences here. So our current pay scale has that within each step is typically about 5%. We did realize that not all of those steps are 5% increase. But that includes, the intent of that was to include the COLA and the performance increase. And it was just combined, where typically the most common practice now and the recommended practice by our HR consultant is to do what I did here, where you have a differential step, and then each year the budget committee and the board approves a COLA. And the recommendation is to use a specific COLA. So that could be the Social Security COLA that gets produced every year. And this past year it was 2.5%. So the option A, what it does, so a lot of the issues, like I said, there was compression between and that means that between step 6 on one position overlaps with step 1, step 2, and even step 3 in some scenarios of their supervisor's scale. So a really good example of that is, so executive director, I start at 87 and my scale right now goes up to 111,000. Transit operations manager, that step 6 is at 91,892,000. In order for him to really be encouraged, he'd have to go to step 3. And there are ways, that is a common practice. There are ways to do that, and you put in your policy language that if there's somebody who, you know, has been with the company for a long time and they're looking to move up to a next position, then they just go to the next pay scale that would be an increase from their current pay scale. So for Jeff, in theory, you know, you could write that for the transit operations manager if I were to, you know, for some reason, which no plans, but if the executive director position was being vacated, he could be approved to go up to that step 3. The HR manager was recommending where we can to reduce that compression, just to reduce some of those issues. And to encourage people to move up.
Is it also potentially an issue if you've got like a new executive director on step 1 and a transit operations manager on step 6? I mean, is that what we're talking about as well?
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
we're specifically
Talking
looking
about,
at, yeah.
okay, so your base was 97, I thought you said 87 a second ago, and I'm looking for that 87.
On our current scale,
On the original documents, yeah.
yeah, sorry.
In the budget.
Oh,
packet.
thank you, I'm sitting here looking, okay, I'm getting there now.
Yep, so, in order
Okay,
to kind of
got it.
reduce those issues, but also reduce the fact that between staff, there isn't,
Yeah,
it's really easy to forget that 5% includes a COLA and a performance
and
increase.
the performance.
So the recommendation is to break those out. So that got me to a 2.5% differential step difference. And then and that is also consistent with the union contract. So option A, I went down the road of creating that 2.5% increase per each step, right?
Okay,
Option A
Okay.
is if everything is really nice and all the formulas. So, sorry, I've described this so many times today. So
Okay.
the thing about option A is you have that 2.5% differential step,
Uh-huh.
and then you have a 2.5% pay grade
so it's
step.
5%,
Yes.
okay, got it.
So that step, that 2.5 pay grade comes into play with step 7. So at step 7, there's always gonna be, with step option A, there's always gonna be a 2.5% increase from, let's say, the dispatch, 63,775, and their, you know, supervisor, which is the field supervisor, that starts at 65,369. So that's what option A does. It makes sure that there's always that 2.5% difference between step 7 of the subordinate and the base of the supervisor. Yeah.
I'm going to play with a lot of numbers to make this work.
Yes.
Whoa.
Which is why, so I wanted to give this to you guys and look at this, but I am recognizing that I really should have some more data compiled to help you guys. And really, I think I need more data compiled
Okay.
to help us show which direction and what all the implications are.
Implications are, yeah,
So,
seeing it.
yeah.
Just, but I'm a layperson in this too.
Well, the main implication is the finance piece, right? And down at the bottom in red of each option, you will see that difference.
Right.
And
right.
the HR consultant is recommending option A because it just provides more clarity, less compression, all of those things, less potential pay equity issues.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That's besides the first thing is that I think the pay
Yeah.
equity issue
Yeah.
has to be addressed in
So
A and B.
both of them would allow us to do both of those. but option A does it a little bit more clearly. Because
Okay.
option B, it's variable pay grade steps. So the step 7 compared to the base of the supervisor of that person is not necessarily 2.5%. It kind of just makes it so that the employee will be earning the bump that they would be if we were going on the regular base set. Does that make any sense? So it helps mitigate some of that financial impact. There's still about, I think it's, to be safe, I want to say it's like $5,000 difference. Because I still had to tweak the field supervisor one because there was a little too much overlap between the dispatch and the field supervisor. So there still is an overlap there, but just not as much as there was.
Okay.
Can I back up to one
yes.
thing, because my brain is kind of twisting right now.
I know,
Yeah,
I'm so
so-
sorry. So is mine.
Yeah,
You know.
thank you.
So when you're talking about a 2.5% differential, is
Yeah.
that essentially the COLA?
Uh,
Or is the other thing the COLA?
the 2.5, that is the, so, sorry. The 2.5% COLA is completely different than this. So this is simply the step between base 1 and step 1 and step 2 and step 3. Those are each 2.5%.
Right, and that's just a longevity step increase, essentially.
Yep. And then
Yes.
the COLA is something that I would bring to the budget committee each year to get approved. And that would have increased the step. So these employees, they all get their increase on July 1st.
Okay,
So that would be all of these employees, they would get their 5% increase every July 1st. So it
But
doesn't
this is where you've
change.
lost me somehow around 5 instead of 2.5.
Yeah,
I'm
totally get that.
lost there too.
Okay.
Well, the top one
Let's
I
see.
kind of.
Sorry.
Right?
So I'm just trying to like reset
Right.
because it is incredibly confusing. So we're going from, and maybe take out that 2.5% pay grade. Just
At the top,
change.
at
Yep.
the top one?
Just disregard that. That's mostly to keep things nice and structured. Disregard that. Each step is a 2.5% increase.
And that's what this chart shows.
That's what that chart shows.
Okay.
Our current scale, each step is a 5%, but it includes the COLA and that
Oh,
differential step.
Okay,
Yeah.
that
So,
made a little more sense.
yes. So with this 2.5% differential step, moving forward, and this is a graph that I just didn't have time to create it today. For our next budget committee meeting, I'm gonna show you what that looks like year over year. So I'll give you an example for the next fiscal year, of what that would look like. But basically, it would be like, let's pretend it's fiscal year 27, right? will give you this graph, and then have a recommended COLA based on Social Security. So it'll show these numbers, and then right below it, it'll show, let's say the recommended COLA is 2.5%. It'll show that 2.5% increase,
Okay,
Okay,
and it'll say proposed underneath it.
proposed, because the differential 2.5 is given.
Yeah.
And the other, the COLA, okay.
Does that make a
Has to
little
be
more
voted
sense?
on by the budget committee.
Okay.
So
So, and
let's say let's just play like a little role player. I'm
Yeah.
executive director and I'm on step 1.
Okay.
And is each step just year? Is it, so like year 1, year 2, year 3?
So that's how we've been doing it. To go along with this, we also need to create a much more specific policy, right?
Okay.
That says, a employee, and the way that we've been doing it is that, let's say someone gets hired or promoted or what have you, they go into that base level.
Uh-huh.
And then we
We all
put in
do.
their offer letter that after the probationary period, then they are eligible for a review and potentially get increased to step 1.
Okay.
After that, it is a yearly increase.
Basically, step 1, step 2, step 3 on this table.
Yeah.
So I'm on step one, I'm
Right.
making, let's just call it $100,000.
Okay,
I get my 2.5% increase on the year two, so I'd be making 102,500.
mm-hmm,
But then I get a 2.5% COLA.
mm-hmm,
So for that year, then my take home is 105,000. Which
Yeah.
is now over step three. So I get that, that's where I'm
But-
losing me.
yes, totally makes sense, but everything gets increased.
Everything, okay, so each year this table is different based on the COLA from the previous year.
Yes,
I get it.
and it just builds on each, does
Okay.
There we go.
that make sense?
And
It does now,
I
yeah.
think
Yeah.
everything, but you mentioned step one is definite, is often. You go from the base and you've been here 6 months,
Mhm,
and then you can
your
go
step one,
up to step one, and so. I kind of drew a line there, because don't the COLAs then start after that?
I think what she's saying is like, next year, this whole table, if the COLA is 2.5%.
Yeah.
Every number in this whole table is gonna be 2.5%.
It's like it
Yes.
pushes down.
yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
okay.
And so this table is only good for this year. and
Yeah,
then
It's
next
only
year-
good for this year, and if somebody came on at a certain time.
Then
Halfway
they-
through the year.
Then they would come in at that base level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, let's say they come in September
Right,
and they come in September, they work for 6 months, they get that step one increase.
okay.
And then in July,
In July, they might go to step two.
Yeah.
Okay. And get a,
yes,
okay,
I think that's what was
That's
confusing.
another annoying
Yeah.
Knowing
question.
that
Yes,
it
please
changes
do.
every.
Yes, please
Yeah.
do.
It's like, wait.
Are you, I mean, just in terms of like the base numbers, right? There's
Yeah.
Some sort of significant increases here.
mm-hmm,
Are you worried at all about the optics of that with union negotiations?
always.
Okay.
The reason though why I think it's necessary is because right now, if you have, right now, what we have proposed to the union, because we're going through negotiations right now for our drivers. What we have proposed to the union, if we keep it as is, there will be an overlap with our field supervisors for that step 7. So there's that compression, and that is one of the reasons why I think it is important or why I'm bringing this to you guys, to make sure that that's recognized and we also address that.
and it
Yeah.
doesn't look like it's, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So it's optically, it looks a little concerning, but it's because we are we're reducing that compression that exists as of now. with the proposed one.
It's a reaction to union negotiations, not something they're gonna be able to say, oh, wow. Look at all these percentages, you just increased everything on.
Our salaries are so close that any changes in one spot creates compression in another spot, which is
Okay.
also why I was trying, is kind of the nice part about having that 2.5% buffer, because it reduces that in the future of happening.
When you say compression, you're maybe just like the two salary ones are just compressing.
They're
Okay.
compressing
An
together.
overlap is like.
Like how the undersheriff was making
Yeah.
more than the sheriff.
exactly, I was just about to say something about that, exactly.
Yeah. And again, I recognize in some agencies, it's, that, or in some organizations, that is a thing. And,
Yeah, I can imagine.
and that is, so if we're feeling a little less comfortable with that increase, or if the budget committee and the board are feeling less comfortable with that increase, then, we could go with option B, solve those issues. We might have to address other issues in the future, but we could solve them and have a minimal impact. But again, so my purpose, I wanted to bring this up because I wanted to highlight the issue and highlight that right now, I'm not asking for you guys to say, yes, Amy, that makes sense. All I'm asking for you to say is, Amy, we understand, or discuss it, right? You can tell me to just move forward with my current pay scale, and that is completely acceptable. You can also discuss and ask for me to, do more digging, create more charts, and create more data that would help you understand what this change would be more. Does that make sense? Oh, I'm sorry. I have a hand raised. Sorry, Greg.
Yeah, Amy, I think there's also another solution, the budget committee, obviously this has to go to the board for approval.
Yeah.
But, you know, standard kind of pay ranges in government is anywhere kind of 3 to 5%, right? All in the private sector can be higher, lower, depending, you know, and with this 2.5%, you know, it's possible like that could be lowered to kind of a standard 2%, assuming that there would be some kind of COLA raise, or that COLA raise could be anywhere from 2.5% to 3% or 2%, depending on the year. So the base goes up every year by 2%. And if, you know, the budget committee or the board making a recommendation to, you know, increase the COLA amount to kind of get to that 4.5% to 5% average, can make that adjustment there. So there's a different way to approach it instead of making it all through the step as an automatic 2.5%. I know there are companies or agencies that, you know, struggle budget wise and they have to reduce that and control overall increase, including COLA, to like a 2% because it's a tough year and you got to manage through it. There's an option not to overcommit us to a year over year 2.5 and do that adjustment through COLA is one option as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the only reason we have 2.5 is that's just what the union employees get that increase.
So you're
that's
being even.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
consistent.
So Amy,
But, and then the other, sorry, go ahead.
quick question. I think similar question to Greg is if there's two pieces to the raise, there's the standard step and then COLA, and you're
Mhm.
setting the standard at like 2.5 and COLA is whatever it is. I guess and if you have a high performer, or you don't have high performance, what's incentivizing people to be a high performer, right? Like if every employee
Yeah.
knows they're going in at 5%, dude, human reaction is going to do bare minimum to get the 5%, at least in the organization I work in. But just wanted, I might be missing something on that front.
No, that's a really good question. And right now, what we have and what I've seen is typical for organizations like ourselves is there is a in the policy that 2.5% increase happens if that employee gets a good performance review and they are recommended to move up to that step.
Right.
If the manager does not recommend that move up, then it doesn't happen. It also could be some of that thing, something that we say, hey, you know, you are underperforming here, here, and here. You are not meeting our expectations. We have discussed this in the review. And I am not going to be moving you up to the next step
Okay.
until we can correct these by doing X, Y, Z. And we will have a review in 30 days. And if you're
Okay.
able to correct these things, we will then move you up to
And it
step.
could be done within the budget year.
Yeah.
To see if I can get up
So
there.
the
Yeah.
step is not a guaranteed or not nearly guaranteed.
Nope.
Okay. Thank you.
Correct. And again, so I think the intent here was to bring this up to you, highlight that there are some issues with our pay scale. Recognize that I really wish I had recognized the issues earlier.
Yeah.
So I could have had this more fully developed for you. But if you think it's worth me delving more into, I would like to come back at the next budget committee meeting with more information, a more fully developed policy that you could see the language and how that is discussed. And then I can also, if you'd like me to, I can also come and show you what a 2% differential step would look like as well.
And then another HR opinion too would be good.
Yeah.
A human resource opinion.
Yeah.
And can you take somebody and just put them up 2 steps?
So
If they're wonderful employees, to answer his question?
yeah, so we thought about it. I am hesitant to do that as it's just it's
That's tough precedent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. I mean, I think it's something we could look at. I would say that before we did that, I would want to probably do an update to our current review process to make it more easily quantifiably defined. And how you do that. We have made a lot of improvement on our annual reviews, but it is fairly qualitative. And I think if we're looking, if we're looking at something like that big of a change, I would want it to have a little bit more concrete data that helps
Right.
us make those
So
decisions.
maybe when you come back to just remind us that it's 1 step at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would include that in my draft policy that I'll.
Right, the
Include.
draft policy, that's what I
Yeah.
meant to say.
So the things that I would like to come back with you, if you guys would like me to go down this direction, I will come back to you with a draft policy that I'll have more time to develop with my HR consultant. I'll have these option A and option B with the 2.5% differential step, and I'll also show you what it would look like with that COLA each year. So just giving a draft example. And then I can also, if you guys would like me to do that same thing with a 2% differential.
I think you need to do what you're doing with the union contract.
Okay.
Right, I do
Be
too. I was
consistent.
just about to say that, yeah.
But ultimately, this is a board level decision.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Just a recommendation.
What is the wages we see in this budget, this draft budget? What is the net effect on those wages? I think that's the main data point I want to see.
And
Okay.
I'll bring that an updated LB20 to you. Just off the top of my head, with option B, it's gonna be about $5,000 increase. And then you're gonna see about a $20,000 increase
Yeah,
with option A.
okay,
That's not bad.
okay. We should.
Does that, and then so I'll include all those information. I'll also include a more detailed comp sheet. I was trying to create it before here and I didn't have enough time to create something that was easily understandable. So I'll have that comp sheet to show you what that would look like to comparable transit agencies. Based on what I am seeing from my initial review, both of these would still keep us in line with other agencies, what their compensation packages are. The one option A for the field supervisor would be on the high end. But after talking to my HR consultant, she still felt it was reasonable based on the fact of, our services are different than some of those other agencies. Are there any other answers that I'm not proposing, or any other questions that I am not proposing to answer with my,
What you just said?
yes,
Yeah, you have the draft policy, the option B, A and B with 2.5. Show the COLA. Also the LB20 effort.
okay,
I'm gonna stay with the union is what I wrote down here. I wouldn't fool around with that one. That's
Okay.
just my opinion.
okay. I could create it too, so the board members can see both too, and just have fun with data sheets, whatever.
See, that's just
All the
saying, like,
Greg, Jeremy, and Tamara, is there anything else that you would like me to create for that for next?
is it time?
We're getting really close.
I'm good.
Yes, Jeremy. Oh, you're good. Okay, the thumbs up. Tamara?
I'm
The
good,
thumbs up.
you.
Okay, cool. Is there anything else? I know we went through a lot of information. Is there anything else that you would like me to compile for the second budget committee meeting?
Only if anything changes in the US government.
Yeah, that would be a big one.
Yeah.
And then you were gonna review some benefits number in here.
I was gonna review the benefits number, and I also need to update a couple of language at
A
the,
couple of typos in the
yeah.
language. Yeah.
Yep.
And any ridership numbers, I'm always curious to see.
we'll make sure we include that too.
Okay.
Good.
All right,
Any-
Um,
Good.
Do I get to call the meeting?
you get to call the meeting.
Any other questions or anyone want to move to adjourn the meeting?
No, just did a really good
I
job
have to
explaining,
recess. No, it says
Amy.
adjourn.
I think that is, I'm gonna go with him. I think we need to recess.
Oh,
Ask Arthur Babbitt.
Oh, yeah, no, please, no.
I think
Okay.
that's mistaken. We're gonna
Are
update
you
our
a buddy
template
of
for
Arthur's?
next year.
What's that?
are you a buddy of Arthur's?
I'm just on the county budget committee with them. So.
What do you want me to do?
He's a stickler about the recess over adjournment.
Hey, you wanna move to recess?
I moved to recess the meeting till.
That's
next
pretty
time.
funny.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Second,
Yeah.
all in
Alright.
favor?
Aye.
Bye. See you next time.
Any opposed? I assume not.
I was,
Okay.
when I was.
All
Thanks,
right,
Thanks,
thank
everyone.
you, everyone. We'll see you on May 28th
Okay.
at 5 o'clock.
Arthur and I have gone round and round a lot.
All right. All right, everyone.
Buddy.
Thank you. Thank you for joining, Greg.
Yeah, sharp guy.
Yeah, he's a very sharp guy.
Are we?
Yeah.
And he'll tell you, like, you'll get into compression and measure 555 and then